Alright, hey guys, Simon here. We are in Assassin's Creed Brotherhood and we're gonna look at the old ruins of Rome today. I think that's a good idea. So there's the Colosseum, we've looked at that already. And there's a couple of arches here. That's the Arch of Constantine, I believe. I forgot which one that is. And then the old Roman Forums is over here. The Forums were basically the government
Come, don't be shy.
of I think the Roman Republic, not quite the Roman Empire. The Empire had an emperor. I think this is like the center of government for the Republic. I'm not sure actually. It'd be good for me to look it up as well. So there's some interesting structures right around the place. There's gonna be a lot of stuff here, and a lot of it is just in bits and pieces because they're all ruins, right? So they've all fallen apart, and it's not that recognizable. But we'll see how well we do. So maybe we should start with the in-game database. And we might also see just how many things we have to look at as well. What am I doing? Database? Locations. Let's see. Lair of Romulus? No. 16 churches, bridges, arches, aqueducts, gates, palazzos? Nope. So let's stick with ore. So Terme is a bath. That's a palace. That's not what we want. It's not what we want neither. That's not a bath, that's the Diocletian's bath. That's not right. No, those are gates, Castel San Angelo, we've seen that. What is this? Basilica di Mezenzio? That's the one we're looking at, right? Yeah, so there's those are three arches things. This basilica's construction began under Emperor Maxentius in 308. Who was later defeated by Constantine in the Battle of Milvian Bridge. Constantine oversaw the building's completion through 312 and relished the satisfaction of completing Maxentius' project. The basilica was a multifunctional building used as a courthouse, council chamber, and meeting hall. It borrowed pieces of its design from other basilicas and Roman baths, but taken as a whole, it is truly unique. So it's it's quote-unquote basilica. It's what we call churches these days. But I think back then, it was more of a meeting hall. Like in early Christianity, basically the Christians would meet in the Roman meeting halls. So it was a courthouse, council chamber, and meeting hall as well. Let's look this up in Wikipedia. Why not? Let's see if we can remember how to spell that. Come on. Why does it open? That's a problem. Alright, so where were we? We were looking at this thing, right? Where is it? We were looking at... there you go. Mezenzio? Basilica di... Right, let's see if we can spell that properly. Basilica... Oops. There you go. I don't have to spell it. So it's this thing. Oh, okay, I see. So it looks like that, the plan of it. So that's only half of it. So there used to be another half, I guess. It's a rectangle building, a couple of giant arches. Basilica of Maxentius is what it's called. Let's find some images. So today it's next to a road. There it is. Looks pretty much just like how it is in the game, doesn't it? Alright, good enough. Yeah, it's pretty good. What is that? Is that a reconstructed interior? Maybe it is. It's a fairly complex building too, look at that. There's arches and arches and arches everywhere. Alright, let's see what Wikipedia has to say. The Basilica of Maxentius and Constantine, sometimes known as the Basilica Nova, meaning new basilica, is an ancient building in the Roman Forum, Rome, Italy. Let's open this too, Roman Forum. It was the largest building in the Forum. Okay. Construction began on the northern side of the Forum under the Emperor Maxentius in 308 and was completed in 312 by Constantine I after his defeat of Maxentius at the Battle of the Milvian Bridge. The building rose close to the Temple of Peace, at that time probably neglected, and the Temple of Venus in Rome, whose reconstruction was part of Maxentius' interventions. The building consisted of a central nave covered by 3 groin vaults, suspended 39 meters above the floor on 4 large piers. 4 large piers? Wait a minute, what piers? Ending in an apse at the western end containing a colossal statue of Constantine, remnants of which are now in a courtyard of the Palazzo del Conservatore of the Musei Capitoline. Capitoline. So 4 large piers. I don't see the 4 piers. The lateral forces of the groin vaults were held by flanking aisles measuring 23 by 17 meters. The aisles were spanned by 3 semicircular barrel vaults, perpendicular to the nave, and narrow arcades ran parallel to the nave beneath the barrel vaults. Narrow arcades? Wait a minute. Is that the wrong plan? Because it doesn't look like what it's describing. I guess there's the arcades there. The 4 piers, is it talking about these? I don't know. I honestly don't know. The nave itself measured 25 by 80 meters, creating a 4,000 square meter floor. Like the great imperial baths, the basilica made use of vast interior space with its emotional effect. If you say so. I thought it was just a big meeting hall, that's why it needed to be big. I don't know if it needs to be emotional. It's just a big meeting hall. Running the length of the eastern face of the building was a projecting arcade. That's that one. On the see the plan there, that's to the right. On the south face was a projecting pro-style porch with 4 columns. So that's at the bottom of that diagram there. The south and central sections were probably destroyed by the earthquake of 847. In 1349, the vault of the nave collapsed in another earthquake. Only one of the 8 20-meter-high columns which survived the earthquake was brought by Pope Paul V to Piazza Santa Maria Maggiore in 1614. All that remains of the basilica today is the north aisle with its 3 concrete barrel vaults. The ceiling of the barrel vaults show advanced weight-saving structural skill with octagonal ceiling coffers. The wrestling events were held here during the 1960 Summer Olympic Games. Okay. I just want to quickly look at these octagonal, what do they call it? Coffers. There I can see them. Octagonal coffers, fascinating. Again, it's to make the arch thinner without compromising the structure very much. That's the point of those. Interesting. In ancient Rome, a basilica was a rectangular building with a large central space and often a raised apse at the far end of the entrance. Basilicas served a variety of functions, including a combination of a courthouse, council chamber, and meeting hall. There might be, however, numerous statues of the gods displayed in niches set into the walls. Under Constantine and his successors, this type of building was chosen as the basis for the design of the larger places of Christian worship, presumably as the basilica form had fewer pagan associations than those of the designs of traditional Greco-Roman temples, and allowed large congregations. As a result of the building programs of the Christian Roman emperors, the term basilica later became largely synonymous with a large church or cathedral. So it was just a meeting hall, a secular meeting hall for the most part. The color of the building before it was destroyed was white. On the outside wall of the basilica facing onto the Via dei Fori Imperiali are contemporary maps showing the various stages of the rise of the Roman... Why is this even maps depicting the Roman Empire? Why does that even matter? This is supposed to be about the building. Engineering. The Basilica Maxentius is a marvel of Roman engineering work. At the time of construction, it was the largest structure to be built, and thus a unique building taking both aspects from Roman baths, as well as typical Roman basilicas. At that time, it used the most advanced engineering techniques known, including innovations taken from the markets of Trajan and the baths of Diocletian. Similar to many basilicas at the time, such as the Basilica Opia, the Basilica Maxentius features a huge open space in the central nave. But unlike other basilicas, instead of having columns support the ceiling, the entire building was built using arches, a much more common appearance in Roman baths than basilicas. Another difference from traditional basilicas is the roof of the structure. While traditional basilicas were built with a flat roof, the Basilica Maxentius was built with a folded roof, decreasing the overall weight of the structure and decreasing the horizontal forces exerted on the outer arches. Okay. So, not a big article, and not much of the building is left. In fact, this might be a bit wrong, because the foundation of the building would have been much bigger, unless they removed the foundation. Let's look this up. Google Maps. They might have just... Actually, it looks like that, doesn't it? It just sits on the ground. Today. Is that Assassin's Creed? Alright, so today there's no... It just sits on the ground, so that this step thing isn't even here. But because the thing is... Like, the original building was much bigger than the three arches remaining, the foundations would remain, like here, like that. Like you see this picture there. The foundations would have been much wider. So the game's a bit odd. Like you see that. So I mean, half the building has, like 2/3 of the building has collapsed, but the foundation still remains. You can see the columns, or the base of the columns, or the piers. I guess they're not columns. The base of the piers at the opposite side, right? So that makes sense there, because this is only half the building remaining. So the other half, the broken walls are still on the ground, whereas in the game, they're just missing. Like they should be here.
Isn't that dangerous?
But they're just gone, which is really weird.
Where now?
Unless it's... Oh wait, are these meant to be it, this thing? Is that meant to be it? In which case the central nave is way too narrow. It's just wrong. I don't know, it's just weird and wrong. Alright, ignore that. So that's the Basilica. Awesome. What about the Roman Forum? So this is a pretty big article, and it's a pretty big set of buildings. Basically, the forums are just a whole lot of government buildings. Outer Forum, Rome. Let's go through this. In fact, let's see what the game has to say. I wonder if the game actually has anything on the Roman Forum itself. It should. So we were looking at Basilica Maxentius. Tempio di Antonio e Faustina, standing proudly among its brethren in the Roman Forum. The Tempio di Antonino e Faustina was originally erected in honor of the deceased wife of Emperor Antonius Pius, Faustina the Elder. 20 years after its inauguration, Antonius Pius also passed away, and the temple was rededicated to both of them. In the 11th century, the Catholic Church decided to make use of the ruins, which converted them into the Church of St. Lorenzo in Miranda, which you see now. Ah, okay, so it's been converted into a church. Let's go look that up. That's in the game. Not much to say about it in that particular database entry, but it's this thing here, right? Yeah, this is this thing here. So there was a temple, but it got converted into a church. So I guess the stuff... So the columns, I guess, was the old temple. And then that brick thing in the middle is the new church? Is that what it means? It looks like it, because otherwise it doesn't really make sense, does it? Although even the church is pretty ruined. That doesn't really make sense. Alright, so... Oh, here it is. Wait a minute. What's going on there? Oh, it's being renovated. So what happens? It's one of the funny things. Like in Rome, like when these ruins are being repaired or you know, maintained or renovated or whatever it is, they put these fake facades on. So this is basically a scaffolding, and there's kind of plastic sheets covering the thing. But on the plastic sheets is printed the image of the building. So then it looks like it's like a it kind of looks like the building is still there, except it's not. Like you're not looking at the actual at the building. It's a printed image of the building behind the plastic sheet, and that's being repaired. That's kind of funny. And Antoninus and Faustina Temple. Let's go look that up. Let's get a new page. Antoninus and Faustina. Wait a minute. Oh, here it is. Temple of Antoninus and Faustina. So it would have looked like that. 3D reconstruction. Except that's really weird. They just kind of built a church in the temple. Let's see. The Temple of Antoninus and Faustina is an ancient Roman temple in Rome, adapted to the Church of San Lorenzo in Miranda. It stands in the Forum Romanum, which is just the Roman Forum, on the Via Sacra opposite the Regia. The temple was begun in 141 AD by the Emperor Antoninus Pius and was initially dedicated to his deceased and deified wife, Faustina the Elder. They turned his wife into a god as well. Wow. When Antoninus Pius was deified after his death in 161 AD, the temple was rededicated jointly to Antoninus and Faustina at the instigation of his successor Marcus Aurelius. The building stands on a high platform of large peperino blocks. The later of two dedicatory inscriptions says Divo Antonino et Dive Faustinae ex sc, meaning to the divine Antoninus and the divine Faustina by decree of the state. The 10 monolithic Corinthian columns of its pronaos are 17 meters tall. The rich bas-reliefs of the frieze under the cornice, of garlanded griffins and candelabri, were often copied from the 16th through to the 19th centuries. So pretty fancy carvings, but otherwise fairly plain looking. The temple was converted to a Roman Catholic church known as San Lorenzo in Miranda, perhaps as early as the 7th century, but it is only attested from the 11th century Mirabilia Urbis Romae. Miranda may derive from the name of a benefactress. It was then thought that this was where St. Lawrence had been sentenced to death. The Christians just making things up. The deep grooves in the temple's columns are said to date to a medieval attempt to dismantle the pillared portico, either for spoiler or to destroy what was then still seen as a pagan temple. Also in the Middle Ages, a staircase was built on the forum side, but it is now impossible to enter from that side as there is a gap of about 6 meters between the foot of the steps and the green bronze door. Before the archaeological excavations, ground level was at this door. Excavations in front of the temple were undertaken in 1546 and again in 1810, and at intervals from 1876. In 1429 to 30, Pope Martin V gave the church to the Collegio degli Speziali, College of the Chemists and Herbalists, at the time officially known as the Universitas Aromatorium. They still use their adjoining guild hall, which contains a small museum that holds a medicine receipt signed by Raphael. Wait, they're still there? Side chapels were built after the state. The church was partially demolished and the side chapels removed in 1536 in order to restore the ancient temple for the Roman visit of Emperor Charles V. The church, now constrained within the cella of the temple. Oh, I see. Was remodeled in 1602 by Orazio Toriani, creating a single nave and 3 new side chapels. The main altar has a canvas by Pietro da Cortona of the martyrdom of St. Lawrence, while the first chapel on the left has a Madonna chart with saints by Domenichino. Christianization has accounted for the survival of the cella and portico of the temple, though the marble cladding of the cella has been scavenged. Indeed, the church lacks the usual east end apse. One was never added to maintain the temple's structural integrity. The church is normally closed to the public, blah blah blah. Alright. So, the temple got converted into a church, and then expanded, and then the expanded bits demolished again to restore the shape of the temple, but not really the whole thing. That's just kind of awkward, isn't it? Apparently in real life, the side and the back columns are gone. Whereas here, the side and the back columns are still there. Not really sure what that means in terms of whether it's accurate or not. Also, there should be really decorative carvings in the corners or somewhere up there. Hey look, are those it? Can we zoom in? We can't zoom in, can we? Can we climb? Let's climb. Ha. Alright, let's climb and see the carvings. Apparently there's some really interesting carvings. Are those it? Those can't be it. Let me just shimmy around the front. You can see the carvings better on this side, I think. The sun is shining on it. What are those things? Like seaweed or leaves or whatever those are? Oh crap, I just pressed shift. What are oh, garlanded griffons and candelabri. I don't think that's correct. Anyway, well there's the temple. And I just let go like an idiot. Yes, prick your legs. Alright, so there's another building. The Roman Forum is this entire area. I probably should read the main forum article first, because that explains what we're looking at before going around looking at the other stuff piecemeal, right? Alright, so the Roman Forum, which if we have a map, I guess this is a panorama, so it's all a bunch of falling apart buildings from the Roman Empire. The Roman Forum is a rectangular forum plaza surrounded by the ruins of several important ancient government buildings at the center of the city of Rome. Citizens of the ancient city referred to this space, originally a marketplace, as the Forum Magnum, or simply the Forum. Alright. So the Forum is technically this rectangular space in between the important buildings. Although this is, I don't know if this is the right shape in the game. Let's see Google Maps. Zoom out a bit. Close that. Roman Forum, oh there it is. Okay, so there's the, oh it should be further to the west. So the Roman Forum is basically this empty space right in the middle there, and then it's surrounded by a bunch of important buildings. As you can see, including the Capitoline Hill right there, and that used to face the forums. It's kind of difficult to imagine what it must have been like back in the Roman Empire, but let's see if we can find the actual forum. Ah, no, it's gone. It is gone. It is not in the game. There should be like a clear rectangular space on the ground, but it is not in the game. And Assassin's Creed does this a lot, and in a way it's a common, I don't want to say mistake, but it's commonly overlooked by a lot of people who don't study architecture, is that they will focus on the buildings, but they don't pay much attention to the spaces in between. When in fact the spaces in between are usually more important than the buildings. Because you can only use a space if there is space, you know what I mean? Like you use the empty space. You don't, like the walls and the doors and the floors and the ceilings. They surround the space, but you actually use the emptiness of the space. Like you know what I mean? So emptiness in between buildings is actually really important. But a lot of people just focus on the buildings and don't pay attention to the spaces in between the buildings, which is it's a mistake. I'll call it a mistake. It's a mistake that people often make.
Life expectancy?
So the actual forums is not here, right? So you see what I mean? Also, this is way too close to that. They basically cut out the forums and then just moved everything closer together in that direction. It was for centuries the center of Roman public life, the site of triumphal processions and elections. Like you see, like it's the center of Roman public life, and they're talking about this empty square. You know, it's just empty space, but they're talking about it as the center of Roman public life. Not the buildings, really. Buildings are useful too, but the space itself, like the site of triumphal processions and elections, the venue for public speeches, criminal trials and gladiatorial matches, and the nucleus of commercial affairs. And all of these things need space to take place in, like elections, trials, speeches. You know, so the empty space is important because it's not always empty. It gets filled up with people doing stuff. Um, Here, statues and monuments commemorated the city's great men, not women, just the men. The teeming heart of ancient Rome, it has been called the most celebrated meeting place in the world and in all history. Located in the small valley between the Palatine and Capitoline Hills, the Forum today is a sprawling ruin of archaeological fragments and intermittent archaeological excavations attracting 4.5 million sightseers yearly. I mean, historically it's pretty significant, but today it really is just a lot of broken down buildings. Many of the oldest and most important structures of the ancient city were located on or near the Forum. The Roman kingdom's earliest shrines and temples were located on the southeastern edge. These included the ancient former royal residence de Regia and the Temple of Vesta, as well as the surrounding complex of the Vestal Virgins, all of which were rebuilt after the rise of Imperial Rome. Alright, so the original buildings weren't there anymore because they got rebuilt during the Empire. Other archaic shrines to the northwest, such as the Umbilicus Urbis and the Volcano Shrine of Vulcan, developed into the Republic's formal Comitium assembly area. This is where the Senate as well as Republican government itself began. The Senate House, government offices, tribunals, temples, memorials, and statues gradually cluttered the area. Over time, the archaic Comitium was replaced by the larger adjacent Forum, and the focus of judicial activity moved to the new Basilica Aemilia. Some 130 years later, Julius Caesar built the Basilica Julia along with the new Curia Julia, refocusing both the judicial offices and the Senate itself. This new forum, in what proved to be its final form, then served as a revitalized city square where the people of Rome could gather for commercial, political, judicial, and religious pursuits in ever greater numbers. Like they keep talking about the empty spaces. I mean, there's the basilicas too, but like the square itself, the empty space itself. Now, eventually, much economic and judicial business would transfer away from the Forum Romanum to the larger and more extravagant structures, Trajan's Forum and the Basilica Oppia to the north. The reign of Constantine the Great, during which the empire was divided into its eastern and western halves, saw the construction of the last major expansion of the Forum complex, the Basilica of Maxentius. This returned the political center to the Forum until the fall of the Western Roman Empire almost 2 centuries later. So there's a brief history of that. Maybe we should... I'm just trying to remember which of these are in the game. The Arch of Septimius Severus, I think that's in the game. Curia Julia, not sure about the other stuff. Forum Main Square is definitely not in the game for some odd reason. Alright. Do you want to read this in length? Description: unlike the later imperial fora in Rome, which was self-consciously modeled on the ancient Greek platea, public square or town square, platea. I don't know how to. It's Greek. I don't know how to pronounce Greek. Or town square. The Roman Forum developed gradually, organically, and piecemeal over many centuries. This is so despite the tidying up of men like Sulla, Caesar, and Augustus who attempted, with some success, to impose a degree of order there. By the imperial period, the large public buildings that crowded around the central square had reduced the open area to a rectangle of about 130 by 50 meters. Its long dimension was oriented northwest to southeast and extended from the foot of the Capitoline Hill to that of the Valian Hill. The Forum's basilicas during the imperial period, the Basilica Aemilia on the north and the Basilica Julia on the south, defined its long sides and its final form. The Forum proper included this square, the buildings facing it, and sometimes an additional area, the Forum Adjectum, extending southeast as far as the Arch of Titus. Originally, the site of the Forum has been marshy lake where waters from the surrounding hills drained. This was drained by the Tarquins with the Cloaca Maxima. Because of its location, sediments from both the flooding of the Tiber River and the erosion of the surrounding hills have been raising the level of the Forum floor for centuries. Excavated sequences of remains of paving show that sediment eroded from the surrounding hills was already raising the level in earlier Republican times. As the ground around the buildings began to rise, residents simply paved over the debris that was too much to remove. Its final travertine paving is still visible, dates from the reign of Augustus. Excavations in the 19th century revealed one layer on top of another. The deepest level excavated was 3.6 meters above sea level. Archaeological finds show human activity at that level with the discovery of carbonized wood. That's like burnt wood. An important function of the Forum during both Republican and Imperial times was to serve as the culminating venue for the celebratory military processions known as triumphs. Victorious generals entered the city by the Western Triumphal Gate and circumnavigated the Palatine Hill counterclockwise before proceeding from the Valian Hill down the Via Sacra and into the Forum. Basically, they're victory parades. Every time they go conquer somebody else, they have a big parade. From here, they would mount the Capitoline rise up to the Temple of Jupiter Optimus Maximus on the summit of the Capitol. Lavish public banquets ensued back down on the Forum. In addition to the Via Sacra, the Forum was accessed by a number of storied roads and streets, including Victus Jugarius, Victus Tuscus, Argiletum, and Via Nova. Do we need to read the long history? I don't think we need to read the long history. I think we've gotten a pretty good summary. Let me just quickly skim it. There's more detail of the history there. I don't think it's that important. But basically this was the center of Rome. Like, this was the public square right in the center of Rome. It's completely surrounded by other buildings. It was a pretty crowded place. So you see a whole lot of other buildings there, right? That's a reconstruction. What they thought it was. The Arch of Septimus Severus. Is that in the game? I think it is. Roman Empire, medieval times. After the 8th century, the structures of the Forum were dismantled, rearranged, and used to build feudal towers and castles within the local area. In the 13th century, these rearranged structures were torn down and the site became a dumping ground. This, along with debris from the dismantled medieval buildings and ancient structures, helped contribute to the rising ground level. The return of Pope Urban V from Avignon in 1367 led to an increased interest in ancient monuments, partly for their moral lesson and partly as a quarry for new buildings being undertaken in Rome after a long lapse. Alright. So they got dismantled during the medieval period and used to build other things. Artists from the late 15th century drew the ruins in the Forum. Antiquaries copied inscriptions in the 16th century and a tentative excavation was begun in the late 18th century. A cardinal took measures to drain it again and built the Alexandrine neighborhood over it. But the excavation by Carlo Fay, or Fear, who began clearing the debris from the Arch of Septimius Severus in 1803, and archaeologists under the Napoleonic regime marked the beginning of clearing the Forum, which was only fully excavated in the early 20th century. So, it's basically in a valley surrounded by a few hills, and so the sediment from the hills would keep draining into this place and keep kind of filling this place up. And also, as people kind of build over the old buildings, the floor level or the ground level would just keep rising. And so all this stuff was buried until very recently. Remains from several centuries are shown together due to the Roman practice of building over earlier ruins. Yeah, there you go. Today, archaeological excavations continue along with constant restoration and preservation. Long a major tourist destination in the city, the Forum is open for foot traffic along the ancient Roman streets, which are restored to the late imperial level. The Forum Museum is found at the Colosseum end of the main road, or at the modern road, the Via dei Fori Imperiali. This small museum has a significant collection of sculpture and architectural fragments. There are also reconstructions of the Forum and the nearby Imperial Fora, as well as a short video in several languages. I don't need to know the admission is 12 euros. Who writes this stuff? Wikipedia, man. Like, people just put in random stuff that don't matter. Monuments. List of monuments in the Roman Forum. This might be useful later. Let's open this up. The Roman Forum has been a source of inspiration for visual artists for centuries. Especially notable is Piranesi, Giambattista Piranesi, who created a set of 153 etchings, views of Rome, in which the Forum figured significantly. Many of the features documented in Piranesi's views have now vanished. Oh, yeah, because the old buildings got demolished. Yeah, so the old kind of collapsing buildings, people love drawing them. Alright, so that's the Roman Forums. A whole bunch of collapsing buildings, although actually we're not sure how accurate this is at this point in history, because in the article it says that a lot of the stuff was just buried and they built a residential district here at some point. And then later, it was only in the Napoleonic period that the excavations kind of dug all this stuff back up as an exercise in archaeology. So this might not actually be here at this point in time. So, you know, earlier I was complaining how they removed the square. They did remove the square because these buildings are too close together. But probably at this point in history, it would have been buried under the dirt anyway, so okay, I guess okay. Alright, let's see what else we can look at. So we looked at that one, and Antonio and Faustina. That's a bridge. So is that all of it? That can't be right. Oh, wait. Arch of Constantine. It is widely accepted that Emperor Constantine I had an insatiable thirst for gloating. So when he defeated no, it's not like that. When you win, you kind of have to celebrate, because the people who fight for you want to celebrate their victory, even if you don't. You kind of have to do it for the people, because they kind of risk their lives for you. You gotta make it seem like it was worth something. Anyway, so when he defeated Emperor Maxentius and took the throne in 312, no one was surprised when he built this arch to commemorate his victory. Most of the artwork on the arch was plundered from existing monuments and modified to alter its meaning. Interesting. Some historians contend that the artisans of the 4th century simply didn't have the talent to create such ornate pieces and only completed the arch by recycling old masterworks from ruins around the city. A preposterous claim as the Romans never copied anything, see what I did there, sarcasm. Charming, Sean. Charming. So the Arch of Constantine is this one.
Lead her to destruction.
How accurately has this been recreated? I think it's been recreated really accurately. Like, every artwork is unique, I think. I mean, I'm just putting my foot over it, right? I think all of these sculptures are accurately recreated. Let me just shut this guy up because it's really noisy.
Leave me alone, I swear.
And let's go back to looking at these carvings. Oh, so there's a cavalry battle there. Oh no, there's some copy and pasting. You see those two brown things there? They're copy and pasted. That, interestingly, is that copy and pasted from there? Yeah, it is. Alright, so it's not completely completely accurately recreated. Quite a bit of copy and paste going on. But it's fairly convincing if you don't look too closely. I think the words would probably... Wow, I am in the column. Let me just read these words. So that would be in Latin, right? In casa... Billioneve Traiano Optimo Germany Pontifex Maximus Tribune. Oh, that's just his name. I think that's just his name. SPQR. Huh. Not sure what that says. Might find out when we look in the Wikipedia article. I think most of it is just Constantine's name. Really? I can't get up there? Come on. You can do it. Come on, Desmond. There you go. Alright, let's go look at the Arch of Constantine. Not the Arch of Septimus Severus, although that will also be interesting. Arches! Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. It's not part of the Roman forums? Arch of Constantine. Let's see. In fact, yeah, like if you look at the close-ups, so they're not all the same. I mean, they copied one of them, and they copy and pasted in all the other ones, but in fact they're all different. All the carvings. So why is this not part of the forums? Is that just in the wrong place? Arco de Constantine. Let's see the map. Wait a minute. It's not actually there. Oh, tricky. It's not actually in the map. Oh yeah, there we go. That's wait a minute. In case Constantino Maximo. Wait a minute. This is not the right inscription. Unless I'm looking at the wrong. No, it can't be. In case... Yeah, this is the wrong inscription. Imperial Caesar... No, this is the wrong inscription. Hold on, am I looking at the wrong thing? Like, that can't be right. Where's the other arch? The other... Or is that the Arch of Constantine? Hold on. But the carvings are kind of correct, though. So I don't know what's going on.
Shit. This is a dangerous place. Lead her to destruction.
What is this other arch? Did they seriously put the wrong inscription on the arch, or is that just the wrong arch? Maybe that's the wrong arch.
Come.
Oh, this is the Arch of Constantine. Oh, my bad. My bad, yo. Alright, my bad. Even though they just copy it. No, but no, that's the wrong inscription too. That does not say Constantine. Wait a minute. What is going on here? Alright, well this is not in the game, it's wrong. Because it says... Yeah, it says Emperor Caesar Flavius Constantinus. Great and Pious, and Blessed Augustus. Yeah, that's not correct. Anyway. So somewhere, one of these arches is the Arch of Constantine. Is a triumphal arch in Rome, situated between the Colosseum and the Palatine Hill. It was erected by the Roman Senate to commemorate Constantine I's victory over Maxentius at the Battle of Novian Bridge on October the 28th, 312. Are you guys interested in battles? Do you want to like see what actually happened there? That's just a picture. Do we have like a map? A strategic map? No, we don't. Never mind. It was only a bridge. Can we get a summary of this? Important road over the Tiber, won the battle, started on the path, led him to end the Tetrarchy. Maxentius drowned in the Tiber during the battle. Sucks to be him. Doesn't really say how he won. Vision of Constantine, events of the battle. Alright, so Constantine was marching on Rome. Maxentius apparently, instead of enduring the siege, he came out. Surprisingly, he decided otherwise, choosing to meet Constantine in open battle. Interesting. He chose to make his stand in front of the Milvian Bridge. Wait a minute, in front of it or behind it? So what I mean, the smart thing to do is to put the bridge between him and Constantine. So that if Constantine wants to move over, he has to cross the bridge. And the narrowness of the bridge was stopping him from moving his troops properly across. Holding it was crucial if Maxentius was to keep his rival out of Rome, where the Senate would surely favor whoever held the city. As Maxentius had probably partially destroyed the bridge during his preparations for the siege, he had a wooden or pontoon bridge constructed to get his army across the river? Is he crazy? No way. Oh, wait a minute. The next day the two armies clashed and Constantine won a decisive victory. The dispositions of Maxentius may have been faulty, as his troops seem to have been arrayed with the river Tiber too close to their rear, giving them little space to allow regrouping in the event of their formations being forced to give ground. That's disastrous. So there's Rome and the river with a bridge on it, and then Constantine's forces marching towards Rome on the other side. So instead of waiting on Rome's side of the river and then catching Constantine as he crossed the river, he crossed the river himself and then arrayed his forces along the river so that they have nowhere to move once they got attacked. That's terrible. Already known as skillful general, Constantine first launched his cavalry at the cavalry of Maxentius and broke them. Constantine's infantry then advanced. Most of Maxentius' troops fought well, but they began to be pushed back towards the Tiber. Maxentius decided to retreat. How do you retreat? There's a river right there, and make another stand at Rome itself. But there was only one escape route via the bridge. Exactly. Constantine's men inflicted heavy losses on the retreating army. There's no retreat. You just get pushed into the river and die. Finally, the temporary bridge set up alongside the Milvian Bridge, over which many of the Maxentian troops were escaping, collapsed. And those stranded on the north bank of the Tiber were either taken prisoner or killed. Maxentius' Praetorian Guard, who had originally acclaimed him emperor, seemed to have made a stubborn stand on the northern bank of the river. In despair of pardon, they covered with their bodies the place which they had chosen for combat. What an idiot! What a complete idiot! Why would you do that? Why would you cross the river to face them? What an idiot. Anyway, well, Constantine won. Dedicated in 315, it is the latest of the existing triumphal arches in Rome, and the only one to make extensive use of spoiler, reusing several major reliefs from 2nd century imperial monuments, which give a striking and famous stylistic contrast to the sculpture newly created for the arch. The arch spans the Via Triumphalis, the way taken by the emperors when they entered the city in triumph. The route started at the campus. I don't need to know all that again. We've read that before. General description: the arch is 21 meters high, 25.9 meters wide, and 7 meters deep. 7 meters deep. 7 meters deep. There's a tree there, for some odd reason. But from this corner to this corner should be 7 meters. Oh hey, hey bro. Can you like come here? No. Come here. So let us measure how long this is in the game. Using his body, we assume he is 1.7 meters tall. He might be a bit taller. Just chuck him right there. Nope, chuck him right there. So he's 1.7. So that's about 2 meters right where I'm standing, right? And then 4 meters... It's only 4.5 here. It's supposed to be what? 7.4. So it's not quite... Or it might be like half, like 5, 4, 4.5, 5 meters. So it's not quite as big as it's supposed to be. And I imagine that the whole thing is scaled down in the same way. So imagine this thing being a bit taller. Maybe 30 or 40 or 50% taller. Probably like 40% taller and 40% wider. And it should be on the road. Unless I'm looking at the wrong arch. But it should be on the road, not beside the road. The top, called attic, is brickwork riveted in marble. A staircase formed in the thickness of the arch is entered from a door at some height from the ground. In the end towards Palatine Hill. Really? There's like a door? There's a door... well, it won't fit here, will it? But there's apparently a door in the arch that allows you to go inside and then climb up to the top. Am I even looking at the right arch? I don't even know. It's not that one. That looks nothing like Constantine's arch, although it's closer to the right size. And I think that other arch right there just copy and pasted, I think. Copy and pasted from this one. This is really odd, to be perfectly honest, the way that it is in game. The general design with a main part structured by detached columns, and an attic with the main inscription above is modeled after the example of the Arch of Septimus Severus on the Roman Forum. Oh, maybe the other one is supposed to be this one. Although that doesn't really look like it neither, does it? Kinda vaguely like it, but not really. That's the hill. Oh, that's supposed to be the Arch of Septimus Severus. Yeah, that's in the right place, but it doesn't really look like it, does it? We'll read that later too. We've already got that open. What was I up to? On the Roman Forum, it has been suggested that the lower part of the arch is reused from an older monument, probably from the times of the Emperor Hadrian. During the Middle Ages, the Arch of Constantine was incorporated into one of the family strongholds of ancient Rome. Works of restoration were first carried out in the 18th century. The last excavations have taken place in the late 1990s, just before the Great Jubilee of 2000. The arch served as the finish line for the marathon athletic event. I don't really care about that. The arch is a famous exemplar, almost invariably cited in surveys of art history, of the stylistic changes from the 4th century and the collapse of the classical Greek canon of forms during the late Roman period. The contrast between the styles of the reused imperial reliefs of Trajan, Hadrian, and Marcus Aurelius and those newly made for the arch is dramatic and, according to Ernst Kitzinger, violent. Although it should be noted that where the head of an earlier emperor was replaced by that of Constantine, the artist was still able to achieve a soft, delicate rendering of the face of Constantine that was a far cry from the dominant style of the workmanship. We're not going to look too closely at that. Although I don't know if any of this stuff is visible in the game. So apparently the art style changed over time, and some of this stuff looks different. I mean, this at the bottom here, like look at this. See the elongated bodies and everything. That looks somewhat like what do you call it? Like medieval mosaics. Whereas that looks more like no catch. It looks more like the classical stuff. I don't know if you guys can tell, or maybe I'm just imagining things. But just the Roman stuff is more, or the older Roman stuff, or the Greek stuff is more naturalistic. If you can see that, let me just climb up a little bit, see if we can see some of this. No, go up. So you see here, like here, those two above us. I mean, those are just a couple of dudes standing there, and the Emperor is not even the right scale, which is odd. But the one down here, see how much movement there is. Like there's the cavalry battle going on, and everybody's kind of moving around, and someone kneeling in despair, and there's people fighting in the background. Not even sure you can see that. But like it's just more complicated than the other stuff. I don't know if that's what it means when they talk about the art style in the carvings. Anyway, just ignore that. Ah, okay, here we go. So here it says Hadrian lion hunting on the left and sacrificing on the right, above a section of the Constantinian frieze, which we don't actually have in the game. Oh, I see. Yeah, look at that, look at that. So you see the ones at the top, the people have the right proportions. You see the size of their heads in comparison to their bodies. They actually have the correct proportions, even the horses. But you look at the frieze underneath it, the horizontal thing. Like it's much more cartoonish, right? You see how the heads are too big for the bodies, and they're all pretty much in the same position. It's more stylized, more cartoonish, more like the medieval art that comes later. So apparently they were talking about how the sculptors of the day have lost the Greek art that came before, and actually it is noticeable. It is very noticeable. Huh, interesting. Iconography. The arch is heavily decorated with parts of older monuments which assume a new meaning in the context of the Constantinian building. It celebrates the victory of Constantine. The new historic friezes is illustrating his campaign in Italy convey the central meaning, the praise of the emperor both in battle and in his civilian duties. The other imagery supports this purpose. Decoration taken from the golden times of the empire under the 2nd century emperors, whose reliefs were reused, places Constantine next to these good emperors, and the content of the pieces invokes images of the victorious and pious ruler. Another explanation given for the reuse is the short time between the start of the construction and the dedication, so the architects used existing artwork to make up for the lack of time to create new art. As yet another possible reason, it has been suggested that the Romans of the 4th century lacked the artistic skill to produce acceptable artwork, and therefore plundered the ancient buildings to adorn their contemporary monuments. This interpretation has become less prominent in more recent times as the art of late antiquity has been appreciated in its own right. It is possible that a combination of these explanations is correct. I don't know. I mean, not that the art of late antiquity is necessarily bad, but it's definitely different. Like, the heads are too big. It's less like there's less science to it in the sense that it's less based on reality and more kind of symbolic. Look, seriously, look at the statue. Isn't his head too big? I don't know. They might be doing it on purpose, of course. Who knows? We don't know what they think anymore. I don't really think we need to go in detail about all those sections, although if you're interested in art history, you might want to. Because the thing is, they're not in the game. In the game, they just copy and paste it. But every one of these carvings are different, and they all mean different things. And we don't see any of it in the game, so that's a real shame. In descriptions, to the Emperor Caesar Flavius Constantinus, the greatest, pious, and blessed Augustus, because he, inspired by the divine and by the greatness of his mind, has delivered the state from the tyrant and all of his followers at the same time, with his army and just force of arms. The Senate and people of Rome have dedicated this arch, decorated with triumphs. Alright, cool. So there's the Arch of Constantine. Ouch. I feel like I should take a break here. And then when we come back, we'll look at more of the Roman Forum. We're not done yet, I don't think. But I think we've been going on for a little while now, so I'll take a break. And in the next video, we keep looking at the buildings around the Roman Forum. And if not around here, then somewhere further away, but definitely the old Roman ruins. I'll see you guys.